Hello, everyone. Once again, I want to thank all of you for liking my videos, for subscribing to my channel, for watching, for getting better at chess. I hope these videos are enjoyable. I hope you get to learn from them. Today, we're going to look at a game that a student of mine and I played a few days ago against someone rated a little bit under 1400. This person played very well, though. He didn't make any mistakes, and this ended up being a very instructive game. My student's name is Nika, and this young lady is getting better and better. And when I started working with her, she was rated about 1100, and now she's getting close to 1400, and her puzzle rating is getting to the 1600 range. So, great job to Nika up, and let's look at this game. D4, D5, nothing special. Bishop F4. White is attempting to play the London opening or the London system. Knight F6, natural flexible move. E3. White is continuing to play for the London. C5 to challenge the center. Bishop E5 it's not a mistake, but it's not quite needed right now. Normally white prefers to play something like c3, bring the knights out, and then decide where this bishop goes. But okay, this is not the end of the world. We blocked with the knight. We could have also blocked with the knight here. We could have blocked with the bishop. This is all fairly similar. Okay, white continues with his London setup. Very solid idea. And queen b6. One downside of the London is the pawn oftentimes ends up not being defended. So we play queen b6, attacking the bishop. Obviously, if the bishop moves, well, there is a pawn here. So why decide to take? And now there is a decision. We can take both with the queen or the pawn. Take with the queen keeps our pawn structure intact, but the queen here does not do too much. So we do with the pawn, and the logic is we did ruin our pawns for a little bit, but this trade is going to happen at some point, and the pawns will look normal again. Okay, he played b3 to stop this threat. The downside, of course, is the dark squares became a little bit weak. We played bishop f5 because we want to play e6, and we don't want to lock the bishop in. Another very useful move could have been bishop a6, with the idea to stop white from castling. He played knight f3, just to try to castle. And knight e4. Knight e4 was Nika's idea, and it's a very nice move because it slows down white's development, because this knight now cannot move because this pawn is going to fall. So white castled, which is natural. And Nika came up with this idea to play g6 to put the bishop on this diagonal, and then maybe they're going to try to open this. Maybe we'll take and move the next pawn to c5, something like that. And white plays a nice move. He plays knight g2 because he wants to get rid of this knight. And if you remember, he could not move this knight here because of this. And the point is, in addition to trying to trade, white can also play f3 and just kick this knight. So we played bishop g7. He decided to take. We took with the bishop. Taking with the pawn would give us two isolated pawns, which is, I mean, it's not terrible, but it's not amazing. And also taking with a pawn would block this bishop. So we took with the bishop. He played knight d2. Again, he wants to take. We decided to preserve our bishop and attack the rook. The rook moved. We castled. He played knight f3, which of course also opens this bishop. Opens up the queen on our bishop. We drop the bishop back to a6. That's a very reasonable diagonal. And white plays knight e5. Knight e5 is a good move. It's a very solid knight. It also has a threat. Every time your opponent moves, you need to ask yourself why. And of course, the logic is this is a fork. So we play rook d8 to stop this, and now one of black's plans. And when you play in chess, you don't just think one move at a time. You ask yourself what your plan should be, and your plan will usually depend on the pawn structure. This is an important idea to remember. Right now, we have more points in the center, and one of possible ideas for us is to play something like f65 and gain even more space, especially because we can gain time on the knight. Alright, the knight left. He's double attacking this. And if the knight gets here, that will be rather annoying. So, although we have a very nice bishop over here, which is not opposed by anything, we decide to take that knight. It took back, we played f6 to play e5. I play rook c1. See, rook c1 makes sense if we were to take and he were to take back. That's a good rook. But of course, we don't have to take back. Another way for white to play could be maybe take here and play c4. So it's not entirely stupid. It's a reasonable move. We play d5. He took. I'm not sure if taking is the most amazing move in the world because, well, we don't get to open this up. He played bishop back to g3, and now there are several reasonable moves here. We decide to just play rook f7. It's a very flexible move. Maybe we'll double up rooks here, maybe we can double up here. And the rooks are just flexible to move around wherever they want, and they don't get in the way of one another. I play c4. And of course, there is a pin here, so we cannot take. So the big question, of course, is do we push or do we do nothing? We decide to push, and white played d4. And now if you look at this pawn structure, notice this pawn. This pawn is a defended passed pawn. So if you can imagine this position without queens and rooks and bishops, just kings and pawns, this pawn is going to win you the game. Because white can never take it, but also white king can never run away too far from this pawn because this pawn will queen. So the king has to constantly be in the neighborhood. This is important, which means that one way for black to try to win this game is simply by trading pieces. And this is important. If you know endgames, you can figure out which positions are good for you and which positions not. If you decide that the king and pawn endgame is good, you want to trade into it. So we play bishop h6 first because our bishop is terrible, and now he is less terrible. He has a diagonal. If he were to play queen d2 next, probably our bishop is just bad. So he saves his rook, and because all our pawns are on the dark squares, also he's attacking this, we could of course put one of the rooks to defend the pawn, but that's not amazing. So we offer the bishop trade. Okay, he accepts, takes with the rook. He plays f3. And now our plan is to try to bring a lot of pieces over here and start some sort of an attack. Alright, so rook f8. He plays a4, which doesn't do anything at all. We push g5, maybe to play g4 and open up the position. He plays h3, which makes it harder for us to play g4. We play it here. If you're a beginner, this looks kind of scary because your king is open. But this is where our pieces are, and we will have more pieces here. We want to open his king, and our king will be absolutely okay. White is getting ready for the line to open up, so he's getting ready. We could, of course, start to push immediately, but it makes more sense to bring the queen into that world. So we brought the queen, queen e2, which I guess makes it a little bit harder to push. Queen d7, so that we could push. White is just waiting. It's hard to... Well, maybe something like b4 could have been interesting, but in order to bring the rook in. But it does create some pawn weaknesses at the same time, so it's arguable whether before is the most amazing move in the world. Queen d3 by white, and we finally pushed. He took, we took. He took, we took. He took, we took with a queen. And now we have complete control over here. And white plays here. If you remember what we said about this pawn, if this gets to the endgame, with kings and pawns, this pawn will win us the game. Now you get to see it in practice. And by the way, white has his own passed pawn. But the difference is this passed pawn is defended, and this one is not. It matters. So we took, he took, we took, he took. We brought our king. We are not going to push this yet, because he'll just come and take it. But we will push it eventually. Okay, he improves his king, we improved our king. He improves his king, we improved our king. The point is, if he does something like this, we're just going to run our pawn and distract him. He does that, it really doesn't matter. And here already we can do this, but we decide to play a5 first. The reason for a5 is now his king has to move. Now if his pawns can move, well, he can move this, but we just play here, his king has to move and this pawn will die. So doing that is not fun. And if he moves the king backwards, well, that allows our king to come. Which is what happened. He moved the king, we moved the king. Okay, if he goes here, obviously the pawn dies, so he has to do this. And now we're going to use this pawn to distract the king. Although the material will be even your king will be much better than his king. And a very powerful king in the endgame will usually win you the game. So push, king here, push, king here, takes, takes. Material is even, but our king is much better, and this pawn will fall. So we played here, he defends, and black can do this forever. Even if white could have like 7 moves, black could just move this back and forth. Eventually white king has to abandon this, and we'll pick it up, and we will win by either queen or moving our king further this way and collecting the rest of the pawns. White pushes, now we have to be careful. Of course, we don't take this way because this pawn will queen. So we take here. White pushed his pawn, and now, once again, white king has to move, and this pawn will die. He moves the king, and now the problem is, in this position he resigns, but if it were his move, he plays here, and we will pick up yet another pawn. It's only a matter of time until we win. Very important lesson to remember from this game is pay attention to the pawn structure. Pawn structure determines your plans, but pawn structure also determines whether you want to trade or not. When you look at this, you realize that if the game gets to the endgame, this pawn will win you the game. So one of the things you do is trade, and vice versa. If you play against this pawn, if you're white, you don't want to trade, you want to change the pawn structure or try to complicate the position. In terms of getting instructive, this is actually one of the more important games which you will see on this channel. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like, please subscribe, please leave a comment if there is something you want me to do. Again, Nika, it was a very instructive game which we're able to play together, and I look forward to playing many more of those. And I will be back in hopefully a couple of days. Thank you.